let's be honest with ourselves here, we have thought about it. We have all thought of having superpowers. It has maybe crossed your mind at least once, and when it comes to the type of superpowers we often fantasize about, having super speed always happens to be on top of the list. And why not? The ability seems cool as hell. I mean, who doesn't want to be anywhere they want to be as quickly as possible? Who doesn't want to finish chores in a matter of seconds or have his revenge on that one person by doing all the nefarious acts you can think of while time slows around you? But just want to put it out there, if you have ever had this particular thought in your mind, you may need help. But nonetheless, everything about super speed sounds genuinely fun and interesting. And our fantasies has been fed all it needs from the representation of speedsters in media. How fast they can run, how cool it is seeing them zip around the city, except Extra Miller, I actually do not know what that shit is. But if you love super speed for all the cool shits you could do with it and would actually want an ability such as this, well, you might want to reconsider, cause I'm about to crush your dreams right now, cause having super speed as a superpower kinda low-key sucks. In order for us to understand how truly nonsensical the concept of super speed is, we have to first look at the drawback, or rather risk, of having this ability according to science. Now bear in mind, every superpower has a scientific risk that could either make you go crazy or straight up lose your life. But most of these superpowers requires little tweaks in one department or the other to make them make sense. But super speed on the other hand is a completely different ballgame, because super speed is fun when you see characters in their fictional worlds doing crazy and fun things with their abilities. Most of them have otherworldly or interdimensional power sources, like in DC with the Speed Force. Others have mutated genes to adapt or compensate for what is needed, like Quicksilver in the X-Men. However, when you take the concept of super speed and place it in reality where logic and physics exist and work properly, no plot armor or explained convenience would save you from the hurdle of super speed. Okay, let's bring up an hypothetical scenario where you somehow had super speed. Maybe you're struck by lightning, which in itself isn't fun, is it? Or maybe you drank some nasty chemical that gave you super speed, or better yet, you were cursed. In this case, calling it a curse seems more appropriate. Anyhow, let's say you want to test these abilities yourself. You're so excited, you call up your friends and homies to watch you exercise your ability for the first time, and then you start running. You first will leave a trail of fire behind because of the mere force of your speed. And as you're moving, your clothes start burning off and you start feeling really hot, and then for some reason you combust and just disintegrate into nothing. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun, does it? You see, before you ever thought of running that fast, you should have thought about something the science like to call adiabatic compression. This essentially is the heat generated by an extremely fast object made it move so fast it doesn't give air time to disperse, which in turn compresses it and as much causes the object to be engulfed in flames. A real-life example of this are meteors when they fall to Earth. It's shown in movies or documentary videos. Basically, anything that can move faster than the speed of sound or close to it is prone to this problem. So imagine you on your first time having super speed and you just unintentionally offed yourself. That would be just sad. So you may be thinking in your head that you wouldn't want to be moving that fast, that I'm just being biased in thinking that everyone who ever thought of having super speed would want to be moving at the speed of sound or as fast as the speedster in DC Comics. Maybe they want to simply be as fast as Dash in The Incredibles, or maybe a bit faster but not on the level of supersonic speeds or light speeds. Well, I have a question for you. Are you a cyborg? And if you're sitting there being perplexed by the obscurity of the question I'm asking you, yes, you should be, because that's the only thing that can save you in this instance. Maybe you could tweak your body to better protect you by something simply known as force. See, if you had the ability to move at superhuman speed, you may quickly realize that you immediately would snap every bone in your body. Why, you ask? Well, cause the human body isn't built around being able to handle such motions. Imagine being in a car with no seatbelts and this car is moving at incredible speed. Imagine it swerving a corner, or simpler terms, drifting instantly. You'll be rolling around in that car and will break some bones if nothing is there to hold you in place. Now picture what I just said, but in your body. Turning a corner would instantly snap your bones. Moving at super speed would snap your bones too. It's cool to see these characters do really fun things with their abilities. Heck, till this day, my favorite scene from a speedster is Dash running away from Syndrome's goons. Big childhood right there. But realistically, this won't work in real life. However, what would work is if you had an extra ability like maybe intangibility, which might help you but essentially won't help anyone who falls victim to your speed, either by crashing through them like A-Train does or just by passing by. But it doesn't end there. If your dream was to become become a speedster and you finally become one, you would definitely regret that decision pretty quick. Cause if all I've said prior doesn't affect you or seem to faze you, then this one would. So answer me this. What if I tell you a single housefly could kill you? I know it sounds weird, right? Or that a mosquito or a single one could simply kill you, just because you have super speed. Cause in this scenario, the problem with force still applies here. Cause if you could move at super speed, every insect you come in contact with through impact would leave a bullet hole in your body, and this world we live in is full of them. So imagine that. If we go back to our first hypothetical scenario where you are testing your newfound super speed, imagine running just a few miles and come back looking like SpongeBob, except in this case you're not a sponge. So at this point we all know what would happen to you, right? So after hearing all I've said, after I've talked about hidden force and bugs, which are core red flags to consider out of many when it comes to super speed, there are still others like calories you'd burn from expending too much energy, which would have you craving food every time you use your speed, and depending on how fast you've been moving, that craving would just be higher. And also the amount of cataclysmic events you'd cause from zipping around the city block or terrains. So with all that being said, do you still consider having super speed? Because if you do, I have another reason that just might change your mind. What I'm about to talk about in itself could have easily been put into the scientific part and it would make just as much sense. But I felt like it deserved its own section because it seems more complex and nuanced than any other, and it is perception. Now if this sounds familiar to you, yes, it's actually something akin to a speedster. Well, technically all living things have it, just speedsters have it cranked up to 11. It's basically how time is perceived by a speedster. For visuals, movie directors portrays this by showing the speedster character in this rather still environment where everything is slow or just completely on hold. With this, speedsters are able to perform tasks and act out a plan before disaster strikes or an event takes place. We saw Quicksilver do all this in X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse. The CW Flash also did this as well, and also Ezra Miller's Flash, even if I really want to forget about it. Now the reason I'm talking about this in detail or talking about it at all is cause when I did research for this video, especially when I had to watch YouTube videos to get ideas, many I came across simply only tackle the scientific red flags of super speed, which is cool and all, but when I think hard about it, it's more than that. Cause let's say having super speed doesn't bring any drawbacks. Maybe the scientific laws doesn't act as a hindrance to the fun of being a speedster. The idea of it still has a psychological hindrance that could ruin anyone. In also doing research, I realized there's also the idea that most speedsters are just fast because it's their biology, that it's not explicitly shown they have heightened perception like Dash in Incredibles, which I don't know, just kind of doesn't make any sense. Because those two things should work in tandem. You really can't be capable of moving at super speed without being able to comprehend the speed to which you're moving. We as humans are tuned to react to certain levels of speed depending on our perception or mental strength. That's why we can't react to most and not everything. But if we are simply able to move just a bit faster, our minds just has to follow. At least that's what I think, because in that case, having super speed without heightened perception, you'll have to be stopping gradually to properly survey your environment before moving again, or you'll just be crashing through stuff or people or get hit by a truck. The idea of perception of a speedster creates problems that are just above what a regular human experiences in their daily lives. I mean, being able to perceive time relatively different from another person is quite depressing to think about. The creepy loneliness and dissociation that follows even makes it more depressing.
The fastest man alive, always leaving people like me in your dust. Well, now you're stuck in high gear, and you're going to be all alone forever.
I had this friend who I really loved talking about superhero stuff with. We basically loved creating superheroes of our own, and it was really fun at first until he created his own superhero. A particular superhero who was a speedster, and boy, he didn't hold back. This speedster had the power to be consistently in the state of heightened perception. He explained how this speedster would never be able to slow down at all and would be consistently doing anything and everything in the world that's just frozen in time. And I was like, what the f? Because even though this character is non-existent and is just a figment of my friend's imagination, I still kind of felt bad for him, because who would ever want to live like that? So imagine you have to live just like that character my friend created. Imagine being in a conversation with a normal person. Having the abilities of super speed will make you have this growing impatience of having to wait for a regular person to finish a sentence, when in your own perception they are speaking regular and are probably fast talkers at that, but to you it's all the same. The loneliness you feel knowing that no one can truly understand you because of how the world is so different to you is something not a lot of people can handle, and frankly isn't something anyone should ever experience. A prime example of this kind of life is Red Rush from Invincible. He explained to his partner how that's a major issue for him.
You can't see things how I do. My perception is just as fast as I am. The briefest conversation with anyone seems like hours to me. It's agony.
Even when he's getting killed by Omni-Man, since he didn't have a way to escape Omni-Man's grip, all he could do was feel the slow crushing weight of Omni-Man's hands on his head, and that's actually really scary to think about. Now I know it's not explicitly a problem every speedster in fiction deals with, they do state it though, but it's not dwelled upon. In fact, other medias and fictional super speed concepts have their characters be able to turn off their abilities, their speed and heightened perception, which is always very inconsistent at times, but it does in a way explain why a lot of speedsters lose fights they shouldn't be losing. I mean, to be real, if one has the ability of super speed, if it comes with such depressing side effects such as this, it just isn't worth it. If you have to turn off your abilities all the time just to live a normal life, is it even worth having the powers in the first place? Cause what exactly can you really do with it? I mean, who's to say having super speed means moving fast anyway? Maybe it seems that way to people, but to you everything is just normal. You just still have to cover the same distance you could cover if you were normal to get to any location. Or reading a book at super speed just extends the time long enough for you to read as many times as you want, but not as fast as you expect. Okay, I went on ranting for a sec there. You know why super speed sucks as a superpower doesn't only apply to an individual. In a way, it cuts out of that box and also applies to the audience who loves watching superhero cinema. And super speed also sucks as a superpower in media. Deny it if you want, but super speed is one of the most powerful abilities in fiction. Because of the endless potential it offers, writers push the boundaries and bring in new concepts to super speed that actually make sense within the scope of the ability. But this also poses a problem when it comes to writing a good story for these characters. A prime example of this was the CW Flash, a true example of how longevity can kill a series. The Flash show is praised for its immaculate story and characters, something that was the major highlight of the first 3 seasons. Because after the 4th season, everything just went downhill from there. Because the story just couldn't work without tuning down the Flash, reducing him to almost complete uselessness, just to tell a somewhat good story or drive a plot. The first 3 seasons worked because the Flash had to deal with other speedsters, where he had to just be fastest to stop them. And as they burnt on that candle for a long time, it slowly affected them when they started deviating from that to tell other facets of Flash's story. Without an overarching villain being a speedster, it became difficult because they made him too powerful in previous seasons. He could only be nerfed to tell a good story, and that is good, that makes sense as the only logical solution, but it makes the logic of the product ludicrous. Although the problems of the CW Flash goes beyond just nerfing Barry Allen, nonetheless it proved how super speed can be the greatest gimmick but also the most problematic at the same time. Because even when you analyze past the Flash, the Quicksilver has the same issue, whether it be the X-Men version or the MCU version of Quicksilver. The X-Men version isn't really as on the nose, but it's there. He's literally seen to be able to perceive time at a very slow pace, even more impressively than we have ever seen the Flash do in media, and he's able to act within the perceived time. That just makes it so enjoyable to witness as an audience, but for the story to at least be a story and the last couple of hours, they oftentimes have to pull some crazy shit from the asses to decommission Quicksilver all the time, which is very annoying when you think hard about it. Whether it's him getting his legs broken every time or getting caught lacking. His MCU version on the other hand, well, we all know we saw that one coming, cause he died in one of the most embarrassing ways a speedster could ever die. By bullets. Which is ironic cause when you think super speed, you expect a character to be able to at least run faster than a bullet. This overall just spells why super speed just sucks as an ability, cause for other superheroes out there with some really wild abilities, they come with very visible cons that limit how these powers work, which always gives writers, directors and producers space to work with and create an interesting story for the audience. Speedsters, however, with no logical problems, the directors are often pushed to a corner where they have to come up with any kind of thing, even if it's just borderline stupid, to keep the story going forward. Cause if they allow a speedster to actually be a speedster, a movie would be over in minutes, cause stakes would be thrown out the window and so many hurdles that makes a movie worth watching becomes irrelevant. So after all this, can you really say it doesn't suck as a superpower? And mind you, there's still so much I refuse to mention just to make this video as short as possible so I don't go crazy while editing. But with the few things I've been able to talk about, I'm sure you've seen just how much this power would suck, whether realistically, psychologically, or just through media. But hey, opinions are opinions. You may have your reason for why you think super speed doesn't suck as an ability, or you may agree with me. We'll never know till you drop the comments in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you enjoyed this video in any way or took anything from it, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads or just to help grow the channel. But until next time, I'm out.